Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, welcome to Tuesday morning's Bhagavatam class. This is the 22nd of June 2021, and we're reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, text number 55. I have it here. I'm going to read it out now. Vigyan atmani samyoja kshetragya pravilapyatam brahmanyatmanam adhare gatam baram ivam bare. Dhritarashtra I'll do the word for word. Vijnana, purified identity. Atmani, in intelligence. Samyoja, perfectly fixing. Kshetragya, in the matter of the living being. Pravilapya, merging. Tam, him. Brahmani, in the supreme. Atmanam, pure living being. Adhare, in the reservoir. Gata ambaram, sky within the block. Eva like. Ambare, in the supreme sky. Translation: Dhritarashtra will have to amalgamate his pure identity with intelligence and then merge into the Supreme Being with knowledge of his qualitative oneness as a living entity with the Supreme Brahman. Being freed from the blocked sky, he will have to rise to the spiritual sky. And the purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The living being, by his desiring to lord it over the material world and declining to cooperate with the Supreme Lord, contacts the sum total of the material world, namely the Mahatattva, and from the Mahatattva, his false identity with the material world, intelligence, mind, and senses is developed. This covers his pure spiritual identity. By the yogic process, when the pure identity is realized in self-realization, one has to revert to the original position by amalgamating the five gross elements and the subtle elements, mind and intelligence, into the Mahatattva again. Thus, getting freed from the clutches of the Mahatattva, he has to merge in the existence of the Supersoul. In other words, he has to realize that qualitatively he is non-different from the Supersoul, and thus he transcends the material sky by his pure identical intelligence and becomes engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. This is the highest perfectional development of spiritual identity, which was attained by Dhritarashtra by the grace of Vidura and the Lord. The Lord's mercy was bestowed upon him by his personal contact with Vidura, and when he was actually practicing the instructions of Vidura, the Lord helped him to attain the highest perfectional stage. A pure devotee of the Lord does not live on any planet of the material sky, nor does he feel any contact with material elements. His so-called material body does not exist. Being surcharged with the spiritual current of the Lord's identical interest, and thus he is permanently freed from all contamination of the sum total of the Mahatattva. He is always in the spiritual sky, which he attains by being transcendental to the sevenfold material coverings by the effect of his devotional service. The conditioned souls are within the coverings, whereas the liberated souls is far beyond the cover. Is born into the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Bastaya Bhattale Shrimad Satsrut Das Goswami Niti Namani. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Bastaya Bhattale Shrimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunivadi Paschata Deshatarine. Hare Krishna. So we are again with the Dhritarashtra and Yudhishthira. Now, what's happening here is that Yudhishthira is the king of the entire world, and Dhritarashtra is his foster father, you might say. And Dhritarashtra has lived a very dangerous and uncivilized, you might say, very precarious life, because although he was the next in the succession of the throne, because of his blindness, he was not allowed. He was blind physically, but he was also considered to be blind spiritually as well. But because of that blindness, he was not allowed to be the king, and so the next in line was Pandu, his younger brother, and so Pandu was the king, and then Pandu's sons should have been the next kings. But Pandu died early, and Dhritarashtra was meant to look after Pandu's sons, and but instead Dhritarashtra tried to promote his own sons as being the next in line, and tried on many occasions to try to kill Yudhishthira and the 5 Pandavas. So at the end, the battle of Kurukshetra was fought, and the sons of Pandu basically removed or killed the sons of Dhritarashtra, and they were installed on the crown they were installed as the kings. And it was understood then that Dhritarashtra, what he did was he took shelter in the court then of Yudhishthira. So he was living there, even though he tried to kill Yudhishthira, but Yudhishthira was treating him as an elder and very respectfully. But there was a third brother, and his name was Vidura. And Vidura, all that while Dhritarashtra was treating the sons of Pandu very badly, tried to rescue Dhritarashtra from this kind of very, very heinous lifestyle in which he was trying to kill his brother's sons and install his own sons on the throne. And he was in the court at the time, and he constantly tried to rectify, reinstate, try to teach his brother how to live properly. But in the end, he was driven away from the court by the sons of Dhritarashtra. And so therefore he just left, and he went touring in the holy places for a whole year. But it was while he was away that the actual war took place, and the sons of Dhritarashtra were demolished by the sons of Pandu. And in fact, there was a huge war, and many of the ruling class or the warriors were killed during this. But then at the end, Vidura returned, and then he saw his brother, whom he always tried to educate, saw him still in this position, trying to enjoy as a king, even though he was defeated, and even though the person who defeated his sons was the person he was taking shelter of. So Vidura showed him his absolutely, untenable position, you might say, although it was tenable for him. And eventually he listened to his brother, Dhritarashtra listened to the Vidura, and Vidura brought him off to the forest to meditate on the spiritual side of life. And eventually he left this world meditating on God, which was quite amazing after all the time that he was there. But Yudhishthira is feeling bad because he thinks because of him that his uncle left the court, and because he treated him badly. But Narada came and actually explained to Yudhishthira that no, that's not the case. It's your uncle, your other uncle came and actually brought him away to meditate, and finally he achieved some real peace in his life by surrendering unto God in the forest while he was meditating, and in that way he gave up his life meditating on God. Yad yad vapi smaran bhavam chajite ante kalevaram, Bhagavad Gita 8:6. Whatever one thinks of at the time of death, that to that state he will attain without fail. So he actually achieved the highest perfection, despite having lived a very, very impious life. So you might take from that then that there's hope for us all, especially because Dhritarashtra actually behaved very badly towards Krishna's friend, who is Arjuna. Krishna's friends, the 5 Pandavas. He behaved particularly badly to them all, trying to kill them all the time. But yet Krishna forgave him. So, and that's what we see in this verse, that this is the highest perfectional development of spiritual identity, which was attained by Dhritarashtra by the grace of Vidura and the Lord. So Vidura was, because he was a pure devotee, he was able to bring Dhritarashtra to the right conclusion. So for us, it is also very important to try to find that type of association, which can give us real spiritual strength. Not material strength, like I'm from Ireland, you're from Ireland, or even family strength. I'm in this family, you're in that family. Or whatever strength we want. I'm from this football team, that you're from the same football team. So, this sort of kind of support, we understand the supporters of different things on this planet. But the real support that we need to have and we need to develop is the support of saintly devotees. And that's what actual support which is needed. Because ultimately, Prabhupada would sometimes say that everyone has to fly their own kite, fly their own, they're flying in the sky. So that kite wasn't the example he gave. It was birds flying in the sky. Even though they may fly in formation, but still each bird has to keep flapping his own wings, basically, to stay afloat, shall we say. And so in that way, we also have to, on one level, we're on our own, because we're the soul, we're the indestructible, eternal soul. That's who we actually are. But in this material world, we have to take shelter of more advanced souls, or advanced souls, more advanced than us, because they actually can give the support needed for us to make the correct decisions in our own life. We have the Guru, the Shastra, and the Sadhu, and we have the super soul within, the Paramatma in the heart. So the Paramatma in the heart, he gives us the instruction on how to serve God, to serve him. He's giving us the understanding by which we can come to him, Tesham Satatayaktanam Bhajatam Purvikam. And he's giving us, from him come not memory, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Sarvasya haham sridisani vishto matak smitir jnanam abhohanam cha. So Krishna is giving us this memory, knowledge, and forgetfulness, by which we can actually go back to Krishna, so that we can recognize Krishna. So we're getting support in that way from the super soul. But it's understood also we're getting support from the Guru. And this was a point which Prabhupada made, Srila Prabhupada made, that when he was in the West, he never felt alone. He always felt, and he was always felt in the presence of his spiritual masters. One time some of his godbrothers were criticizing him for not giving the credit to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in the fact that he didn't visit Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's samadhi when he went to Mayapur. But Prabhupada said, well, no, this Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj is always with me. I'm never without his association. So this is how the devotee thinks, and this is how the devotee acts. And so we should try to do the same thing. So therefore, it is important for us to find an association by which we can learn how to take shelter of God. And it's through this association of devotees, that this is possible. Satatam kirtayantamam yatantascha dhvita. And the other verse is 9:13 and 9:14 in the Bhagavad Gita. Let's find it. Let's read it. read both the Sanskrit and the English. Mahatmanas tumam partha daivam pratamashrita bhajantanyanyamanaso gatva bhutadam avyayam. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. That's just about the pure devotees. And what do they do? Satatam kirtayanto manyatantas chadritavrita namasyantas chamam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. Always chanting my glories, endeavouring with great determination, bowing down before me. These great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So they're always chanting my glories, endeavouring with great determination, bowing down. Always enlightening one another. Where's that verse about? Anyway, there's another verse which explains where they're always enlightening one another about me. Let me see. Could be 10:11. Tesham evanu kampartam. But that's mainly about Krishna enlightening people from within, of course, as well. Oh, to show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Anyway, I'll find that other verse later on. But to show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts. If anybody here is listening, they could text in that if they know what that verse is about, always enlightening one another and conversing about me. But here, this is another part of the shelter or of the keeping up. We're talking about Vidura basically here. He's because he's a great soul, he was able to finally get through to Dhritarashtra and deliver him basically from this material world. And so we are also dependent on these great souls for our deliverance, because they know Tadvidi Panipatina Pariprashnena Sevaya Upudeka Shante Tekanam Ganina Statva Darshana. They can reveal the truth because they have seen the truth, and so that's what they do. They're always serving Krishna in that way. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. It's Tesham evanu kampartam aham agyana janantama namasyatma bhavasto nashayam yatma bhavasto jnana dipeni basvata. So Krishna's there. He's sustaining us. Again, there's another verse in Bhagavad Gita which talks about Krishna being the sustainer, which I find really, really helpful, really, really important. It's sometimes we think we're keeping ourselves by the strength of our intellectual ability, our intelligence, by our physical body, our physical force. We think we're doing that, but in fact, we're being sustained by Krishna. Krishna's giving us everything. Anyone who's going to take their breakfast soon, Krishna's sustaining them by the grains. He's sustaining our bodies, or sustaining our minds. Krishna is, that's what Krishna is. That's who God is, Chetananam. That Krishna is the supreme eternal among all eternals. So he's maintaining our eternality. So it said in one point there that Dhritarashtra, he understood his qualitative oneness with Krishna, which means he was able to understand his eternality, which is part of Krishna. So in the same way, we're part of Krishna as well, and we have our own eternality. So that's what we get by serving Krishna. We actually get to understand what that eternality is. So then that will help us not identify with this temporary situation by which our body is. It is born, it grows up, it produces it stays from some time, it produces some byproducts, it dwindles, and then it dies. So we don't identify with that particular aspect, but we identify with the eternal aspect, which is our Krishna aspect, you could say, and that is our real nature, and because that's our real nature, then the Shastra is full of learning about what our real nature is, but what our real home is. What is the context in which we have our own individuality. It's not that the context is that we all become nothing, or we become light, and that's it. No. The context is also given, which is the spiritual world, which is blissful individuality. Like we know in the material world, everyone's trying to be an individual. Oh, I have my own way of doing this. It's kind of like a cliche, but actually the real I that's been spoken about here is the eternal I, and the eternal, that's not eternal EYE, but eternal I, capital I. That eternal I is getting its real significance and knowledge and self-awareness from the Shastra. So the Guru, the Shastra, and the Sadhus, these are what actually are what sustain us. It's not, okay, it's also the food, you could say, from a physical point of view, and the air from a physical point of view, all of those. But there's also the psychological point of view, which is actually from the association of devotees. We know that if a person is in isolated confinement, therefore they find it very, very difficult, and it's one of the greatest punishments one can give, to be in a solitary confinement, when there's no reciprocation with anyone else. It breaks people. But ultimately, obviously, we're never alone, but that's not so easy if we're in this material world. We are social beings, and the living entities like to reciprocate with others. And that's coming from Krishna. Krishna likes to reciprocate. That's why we're here, because we reciprocate with Krishna as well. So that the eternal individuality of God and the eternal living individuality of the living entity is who we are. And what are the activities in the spiritual world? Well, they're not confined by birth, death, disease, and old age. And Krishna gives us much more understanding of what that is in the spiritual world, in the Shastra. So the Shastra and the Sadhus and the Guru, they give us the understanding, basically, of what is there in the spiritual world. So a pure devotee of the Lord does not live on any planet of the material sky, nor does he feel any contact with material elements. His so-called material body does not exist, being surcharged with the spiritual current of the Lord's identical interest. Now, as I was saying about the eternality of the soul, and how it's maintained by Krishna. So this is one description of that Prabhupada gives, that is surcharged with the spiritual current of the Lord's identical interest, because the Lord has an interest. And the material world is almost like a byproduct which has created just for the living entities to try to live separately from him. But there is a spiritual dimension which has Krishna in the center and us as the position of servitor, but it's not in a servile sense, but it's in a sense of reciprocation. And when we understand that about God, that we're in the position that we're trying to serve God. That's what Bhakti Yoga is, devotional service. We're trying to serve God. We're not trying to serve ourselves, which is where the illusion happens, when we're going around trying to fulfill our material needs. There's so many verses explain about the material happiness as a beginning and the end, and the wise man does not indulge in it. So we're trying to learn how to be the servant of Krishna, because that's our actual natural position. But that position is not just as servile. It is, it also is in a position of friendship, a position of even paternal, more of a being superior to God. And then there's the position of the gopis in Vrindavan, which is they're conjugal lovers of God. So when you're a lover, it's not that the other person doesn't reciprocate. Yes, the other person reciprocates even more. And that is the nature of God, and that He's reciprocating with us in a very elevated way. And as much as we may think that why doesn't God do this for me? I'm doing all this for Him. God is actually doing all this for us, and we're not doing anything for Him. We're actually ignoring God, which is one of the worst things you can do, is to ignore somebody. But actually that's what we do, and we do it regularly. Even if we take the spiritual life, we ignore God so that we can have our little bit of sense pleasure. Now, it's said that one should be modified, or one should be, what's that word? But basically, when one is in all the different activities, you should be moderate in that sense. So you can't just suddenly give everything up and then force yourself, like, and force the mind into doing something which, you have to gradually work on it. So therefore, Krishna, initially we're told all the time we're servant of God. Now, when I'm being told that, it's taken me 20, 30, 40 years to even want to be a servant of God. I didn't want to. Even when I was a devotee with Tilak and going around chanting Hare Krishna, I didn't want to serve God. I was still working out ways I could serve myself. I wouldn't say it was constant, but it was pretty close to being constant. And the odd bit of time I'd get a little bit of kind of insight into what that means. So gradually, recently, I've been thinking, I have to become the servant of God. That's my actual position. But now, when I've started to go into that position, then I understand that Krishna wants to reciprocate much more than I do. And so Krishna is serving the devotee, just like he was serving Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, just like he's serving the gopis. And because Krishna wants to have that reciprocal relationship, because that's where the real juice is, that love. And that is the love that is there, that we're trying to find in the material world. And that's why we're here. Even when we're in the material world, even though we're selfish, we're still looking for love. And we're looking to love and to be loved. That's our constitutional position. That's who we are. We're the living entity that wants to love and to be loved. So that's we're getting that because that's coming from God, basically. That's how Krishna is sustaining us. He's sustaining us with love, and He is coexisting with us because of loving affection. And we're trying to regain what that loving affection is, and to give up trying to seek it out in this world, and to actually find it in its purest form, in relationship with God, in relation with servitorship to God. So this is how it's presented here. Prabhupada talks about the spiritual current of the Lord's identical interest. So we become one with the Lord in the sense that we become one in interest with Krishna. So did you ever work? Did anyone here ever work with somebody on a project that you're both really into? It's ecstatic. It's an ecstatic feeling. So that is what's done here. That's where the ecstasy is, when we cooperate with God. That was another word Prabhupada used in the purport. And the living being, by his desiring to lord it over material nature and declining to cooperate with the Supreme Lord, that's to cooperate. So this cooperation with Krishna is it's divine. It's inspired divinely. It has all the ecstasy of a divine relationship, and therefore. And then Prabhupada goes on to say, and thus he is permanently freed from all the contamination of the sum total of the Mahatattva. He is always in the spiritual sky, which he attains by being transcendental to the sevenfold material coverings. So this is a huge claim, because if we're on the spiritual platform, in other words, if we're trying to serve Krishna, and we realize Krishna's reciprocity in that situation, then we will glorify God even more, and we will be becoming mad after God. So that reciprocation is there because Krishna says to the gopis, "Naparayaham, I cannot repay you, because of the love that you have for me." But Krishna wants to love them, but then what does he do? He tries to repay, because he comes back in the form of Lord Chaitanya, and then when he's in the form of Lord Chaitanya, he comes to this world and he marries Vishnu Priya, and he marries Krishna. I can't remember the name of the second wife. The first wife dies because of separation, and the second wife then is separated also. and Krishna leaves his second wife to go to take, because he's taken sannyas. Of course, his second wife he never leaves. This is the goddess of fortune in that sense, which is ultimately a part of Radharani. But so therefore, it's not like a kind of a mundane thing that's going on. But in fact, what he does is he leaves his mother Sachi, when he takes sannyas. And that's one of the hardest things to do. Even in the sannyas order, the attachment is still there. But what he does is that he leaves there and he goes to Jagannath Puri, and there he lives the last 18 years of his life hearing about narrations about how beautiful Krishna is, because he's coming in the form of Radharani, because he wants to experience the love that a devotee has for him. So these are the kind of the more of the mysteries of the appearance of Lord Chaitanya, and also of the appearance of Krishna in the world, and the appearance of Radha. So in this way we get kind of a real understanding of who we are in relationship to God, and that Krishna has that reciprocal relationship with us. As fallen as we are, still we are part and parcel of Krishna, and Krishna has an eternal relationship with us, and therefore it is a very significant thing to be in this world as a soul, and to be in this world and being able to hear about Krishna. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Thank you very much for listening. That was today's class on the Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, Text 55. So hopefully Pragosh Prabhu will be here to give a class again next Friday. So, Panchakalpa Trubhyascha, Kripasinduvacha, Paritana Bhavani, Vaishnava.